Hello. Today we're going to take a closer look at what really happens with cholesterol in our bodies and why its bad reputation is not entirely fair. Cholesterol isn't just a fat-like substance that builds cell membranes and helps produce hormones. Yes, it is found in atherosclerotic plaques, but that doesn't make it the main villain of heart disease. The real culprit in this story is excess sugar in our diet. When too much glucose circulates in the blood, it begins to damage the inner lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium. The microdamage acts as an alarm. The body tries to close the defect to prevent further damage. This is where cholesterol comes in. It penetrates the damaged endothelium into the intima, the inner layer of the artery, where it is oxidized. The damaged endothelium attracts macrophages, which ingest the oxidized cholesterol through receptors. When excess cholesterol accumulates, the macrophages turn into foam cells, which fuel inflammation. An atherosclerotic plaque forms around it, which can eventually rupture, causing thrombosis and an acute vascular event, such as a myocardial infarction or stroke. So, cholesterol itself isn't the enemy. The danger comes from the unhealthy environment it's placed in. Imagine walking through a dangerous neighborhood at night with $10,000 in your wallet. The wallet isn't the threat, but it attracts trouble. The same with cholesterol. In a healthy environment, it works for you, but in damaged and inflamed vessels, it becomes part of a harmful process. Now let's look at the SCORE risk chart used to estimate the 10-year risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Take a look at the bottom row. For a man over 40, with normal blood pressure and no smoking habit, even total cholesterol around 6 millimoles per liter falls into the safe green zone marked 1. But add just one factor, smoking, and that same cholesterol level shifts to zone 3, meaning a much higher risk. This shows that cholesterol must be considered together with other risk factors like blood pressure, smoking, age, and sex. The key idea here: cholesterol appears in plaques not because it's inherently bad, but because the vessel was damaged first. The causes of that damage vary. Obesity, for example. Fat tissue releases pro-inflammatory substances called cytokines, which keep the body in a state of chronic inflammation and irritate vessel walls. Smoking? Chemicals in tobacco smoke directly harm the endothelium and disrupt blood vessel function at the cellular level. In this sense, cholesterol is more like a victim of circumstance, but in an unhealthy environment, it can turn from a rescuer into part of the problem. This is why high cholesterol is often a consequence of poor health, not the root cause. In an unhealthy internal environment, cholesterol behaves differently, contributing to plaque buildup and reduced blood flow. So how do we deal with it? There are two main approaches. First, address the root cause. If sugar intake is too high, we need to cut back and support the body with balanced nutrition and physical activity. If excess weight is the issue, gradual and safe weight loss helps. If smoking is the trigger, cutting down, or better, quitting altogether, is crucial. Once these harmful factors are removed, cholesterol stops being dangerous. Second, lower cholesterol directly. This is a temporary measure because it does not eliminate the root cause, but it can partially alleviate the situation. The less cholesterol circulating in the body, the less of it will fall into the hands of the real culprits: inflammation, vascular damage, and oxidative stress. Returning to our analogy, if you are going to walk through an unsafe area, it is better to leave an expensive handbag at home so as not to provoke events. Same with cholesterol. If your lifestyle and diet are still creating unfavorable conditions, temporarily lowering its level can be beneficial for health. But this is not an ideal way because it fights the consequences, not the source of the problem. In addition, cholesterol-lowering drugs can have side effects, which are important to be aware of. Therefore, it is strategically correct to ensure that the arteries are intact and safe, and the cholesterol that is in our body is not subject to oxidation and can do its job without turning into a conspirator against our health. If we are healthy, our blood vessels are in order, there is no inflammation, and our cholesterol level is slightly elevated, then nothing bad will happen to it. It will simply circulate in the blood and perform its functions. But if the body already has problems, chronic inflammation, vascular damage, high blood sugar, smoking, Even a relatively small amount of cholesterol can play a negative role, like adding fuel to the fire. Yes, there is a stable association between high cholesterol and cardiovascular diseases, but it is important to understand that this is only part of the overall picture, and it should always be considered in a comprehensive manner. And one more important point. Much more information is provided by the analysis of lipoproteins. Here, the main players are low-density lipoproteins and high-density lipoproteins. The more LDL, the higher the probability that the cholesterol they transport will be damaged and will participate in the development of atherosclerotic plaques. HDL, on the contrary, takes excess cholesterol from the vessels and returns it to the liver for processing. Therefore, the higher the HDL level, the more reliable the protection against cholesterol accumulation in the arterial walls. To put it very simply, a high concentration of LDL in combination with low HDL increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases, and the opposite situation, low LDL and high HDL, reduces this risk. But everything is not so simple. Science likes to throw up surprises, and one of them is that a significant portion of patients with coronary heart disease are admitted to the hospital with normal LDL levels. According to the American Heart Association, about 75% of people with myocardial infarction have this indicator within the normal range. How so? The answer is that LDL is different. There are small and dense particles. They easily pass through the vessel wall and settle inside, contributing to the formation of plaques. There are also larger, less dense particles that have a harder time penetrating the vascular wall and are not as atherogenic. The problem is that standard laboratory tests do not separate these fractions. They only show the total LDL level. Therefore, high total LDL does not always mean high risk, and low LDL does not always guarantee safety. Researchers have found an indirect way to assess which particles are more abundant in the blood. It turned out that the level of dangerous small LDL is closely related to the level of triglycerides. If triglycerides are high, it is likely that most of the LDL is represented by small particles. If triglycerides are low, most likely large LDL predominates, which pose a lesser threat. Today, we have looked at only one fragment of the complex picture of atherosclerosis. In the following videos, we will examine other important elements in detail, show their relationship, and tell you how to reliably protect your heart and blood vessels. Take care of your health and see you in the next video.